Never, under any circumstances, underestimate a traditional family's determination to see you married. I learned this the hard way. For 2 solid years, my mother flooded my phone with profiles of eligible women. Every single morning began with a line message. Leo, look at her. She loves baking. Leo, look at this one. She has a stable corporate job. It was suffocating. I couldn't even breathe without being reminded that my biological clock was ticking in the eyes of my parents. So, at Sunday dinner, out of pure, unadulterated desperation, I slammed my chopsticks down on the table. The bowls rattled. My parents froze. I looked my mother dead in the eye, took a deep breath, and dropped the biggest bomb I could think of. Mom, Dad, stop it. I can't marry a woman. I'm gay. I thought that would buy me years of silence. I thought they would need time to process it, to go through the stages of grief, or at least give me some space. Instead, my mother calmly wiped her mouth with a silk napkin, adjusted her designer glasses, and turned to my father. Oh, thank goodness, she beamed. That explains your terrible fashion sense and why you never let me decorate your apartment. Pass the potatoes, dear. I sat there, jaw practically hitting the floor. That was it. No drama, no tears. I thought I was free. I was completely, utterly wrong. 3 days later, I received a calendar invite from my mother for a casual dinner at an incredibly upscale, traditional ryotei restaurant in Kyoto. When I arrived, the atmosphere felt less like a casual dinner and more like a high-stakes political summit. My mother was wearing her finest formal kimono. My father looked like he was about to sign a multi-million-dollar peace treaty. Leo, sit down. My mother smiled, her eyes glittering with a terrifying, triumphant energy. Before I could even pull out my chair, she slid a heavy, glossy leather profile folder across the table. What is this? I asked, a cold sweat breaking out on the back of my neck. Since you prefer men, my mother said, leaning in, we immediately contracted the city's top elite matchmaker. And oh my, she delivered. Meet your fiancé. His family owns a global logistics empire. He graduated top of his class from Kyoto University, and according to the matchmaker, he is a perfect, alpha-type gentleman. Before the air could even enter my lungs to let me scream, the sliding shoji screen door clicked. It smoothly glided open. A man stepped into the private room. He was incredibly tall, built like a high-fashion runway model, and dressed in a flawlessly tailored charcoal gray three-piece suit. He had sleek, meticulously styled silver gray hair parted perfectly and deep, calculating obsidian eyes. He looked like an anime character who had accidentally walked into my real-life nightmare. He looked directly at me. A slow, infuriatingly handsome, self-assured smirk played on his lips. Hello, Leo. His voice was a deep, smooth baritone that echoed in the quiet room, sending an involuntary shiver straight down my spine. I'm Simon. I look forward to our marriage. I looked at my mother. I looked at Simon. I realized, in that exact moment, that my desperate lie had just successfully trapped me in an arranged marriage with a literal billionaire tycoon. The worst part about Simon wasn't that he was forced into my life by my parents. The worst part was that he was completely, unapologetically, infuriatingly perfect. Because both of our families wanted to expedite the bonding process, Simon took it upon himself to handle our living situation. How did he do it? He didn't ask me to move into his mansion. No, instead, he legally bought out the entire lease of my apartment building overnight and moved his things directly into my tiny, modest 2-bedroom flat. I went from enjoying a quiet, messy bachelor life to sharing a single kitchen counter with the heir to a global fortune. The first few weeks were a psychological war zone. I expected him to complain about the lack of space, the cheap water pressure, or the view of the convenience store downstairs. But he didn't. He adjusted perfectly, which only made me angrier. One morning, around 7 a.m., I stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing the sleep from my eyes, only to freeze in my tracks. Simon was standing at the stove. He was wearing a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms, revealing sharp lines, and he had a dark silk apron tied tightly around his waist. He was effortlessly flipping a flawless French omelet, the aroma of gourmet coffee filling my tiny kitchen. You don't have to do this, you know, I muttered, crossing my arms and leaning against the refrigerator. I told you, Simon. I lied to my parents to make them stop. I mean, yes, I am actually gay, but this whole arrangement between us is a complete farce. You're a tycoon. You don't have to play along with my mother's delusional matchmaking fantasy. Simon didn't answer right away. He calmly turned off the stove, slid the perfect omelet onto a porcelain plate, and set it down on the counter right in front of me. Then, he leaned over the counter, closing the distance between our faces until I could clearly smell his expensive cedarwood and mint cologne. A farce, Simon murmured, his dark eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my heart do a very violent, dangerous flip in my chest. Leo, my family doesn't do jokes. And more importantly, neither do I. If I sign a contract, I fulfill it to the absolute best of my ability. Besides, who says I'm playing along? I blinked, taking a step back. What? Simon's smirk returned, sharp and playful. You're exactly my type, Leo. Sharp-witted, stubborn, and remarkably cute when you're trying to act tough. I nearly choked on my own breath, my face flushing a furious, hot red. He was teasing me. He had to be. He was a high society elite, and I was just a middle management corporate worker trying to survive the week. But as the weeks bled into months, the line between our fake arrangement and actual reality began to blur completely. Every single day, Simon would wait for me downstairs in his luxury sports car to drive me to work. He packed me gourmet bento boxes that made my coworkers incredibly jealous, and he would text me throughout the day just to ask what time I'd be home for dinner. Slowly, painfully, I found myself changing. I stopped dreading the end of the workday. I found myself rushing to the subway just to get home faster. I found myself staring at his lips whenever he laughed at the dinner table. I was falling, hard and fast, for my arranged fiancé, and it absolutely terrified me. Then came the night of the annual corporate gala, the night where everything completely exploded. Simon was supposed to attend with me, but a high-level emergency board meeting at his logistics firm ran late. He told me to go ahead and that he would try to catch up later. So, I went alone, wearing a sleek black tuxedo that Simon had personally ordered for me. The gala was loud, crowded, and filled with fake smiles. Trying to escape the suffocating small talk, I took a glass of champagne and slipped away to the grand balcony overlooking the city skyline. The night air was cool, a welcome relief. But my peace didn't last long. Leo, I thought that was you. You look absolutely stunning tonight. I turned around to see Kaido stepping out onto the balcony. Kaido was a senior consultant from our main rival firm, a textbook corporate golden boy with perfectly messy blonde hair, sharp blue eyes, and a dangerously smooth, easy smile. He had been trying to corner me for months under the guise of business networking. Kaido, I said, keeping my voice professional. Good evening. You've been avoiding my dinner invitations, Leo. Kaido purred, stepping way too close into my personal space. He leaned his arm against the balcony railing right next to me, trapping me against the edge. I heard a rumor going around the corporate circle that you were suddenly off the market. But I look at your hand, and I don't see a ring on your finger. I'm engaged, actually, I stammered, feeling incredibly awkward and trying to push past him. It's a private family matter. Until there's an actual wedding, it's just a discussion, isn't it? Kaido chuckled softly. Before I could react, he reached out, his fingers smoothly brushing a stray lock of black hair out of my eyes, his touch lingering on my cheek. Give me a chance to change your mind, Leo. I promise I can be much more fun than whatever boring businessman your parents picked out for you. Before I could tear myself away from his grip, a sudden, suffocating, freezing aura swept over the balcony. The air pressure in the room felt like it dropped 20 degrees in a single second. Take your hands off my fiancé. The voice wasn't loud, but it was laced with a terrifying, venomous authority that made everyone nearby stop talking. I whipped my head around. Simon was standing at the entrance of the balcony. He looked completely breathless, as if he had run all the way here. His charcoal suit jacket was unbuttoned, his black tie was slightly loosened, and his eyes, usually so incredibly calm, cold, and controlled, were burning with an absolute, wild, terrifying rage. He had skipped his multi-million-dollar board meeting just to get here. Simon walked over, his stride dominant, unyielding, and heavy. He completely ignored Kaido's existence, reaching out to forcefully grab my waist and pull me flush against his chest. He held me so tightly against him that I could feel the rapid, furious thumping of his heartbeat. He was marking his territory in front of the entire gala. Kaido raised his hands in a mock surrender, a smug smirk on his face, though his eyes narrowed dangerously. The great logistics tycoon. I didn't realize you were so possessive over a simple arrangement, Mr. Simon. You have absolutely no idea, Simon growled, his grip on my waist tightening even further, his eyes locking onto Kaido like a predator sizing up its prey. If I ever see your hands anywhere near Leo again, I will personally buy out your entire consulting firm by tomorrow morning and fire you by Monday. Test me. Now get out of my sight. Kaido's smirk faded. Realizing Simon wasn't bluffing, he cleared his throat, straightened his jacket, and slipped back into the crowd without another word. Simon practically dragged me out of the gala hall, ignoring the whispering crowd, and pushed me into the passenger seat of his sports car. The drive back to our apartment was dead silent. The only sound was the low hum of the engine and the harsh, tense breathing coming from Simon. He gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. My heart was pounding so violently against my ribs I thought it would shatter. The moment we stepped inside our apartment and the door clicked shut behind us, the tension snapped. Simon grabbed my arm, turning me around and pinning me gently but firmly against the wall near the entrance. He wasn't smirking anymore. His silver hair was beautifully messy, his eyes were wide, and he looked completely undone, vulnerable in a way I had never seen before. "Why didn't you tell him to back off immediately?" Simon demanded, his voice thick with a raw, aching emotion. Do you actually want someone else? Did your parents force you into this so badly that being with me makes you miserable?" I stared at him, completely frozen. Seeing this proud, incredibly powerful billionaire tycoon completely broken down and consumed by jealousy over me made a light bulb go off in my brain. All my fear, all my doubts about his feelings being a game or a contract negotiation completely evaporated. "Simon, look at me," I said softly. I reached my hands up, gripping the lapels of his charcoal suit jacket, anchoring myself to him. I lied to my parents about being gay just to make them stop setting me up. I didn't want an arranged marriage. I didn't want any of this. Simon's eyes darkened, a flash of pain crossing his face, and he started to pull back. "I see. But," I shouted, pulling him right back down by his tie, forcing him to look at me. "I don't want anyone else. I don't want Kaido. I don't want a fake setup. I want you. I am completely, deeply, and hopelessly in love with you. You overprotective idiot." Simon froze entirely. The anger, the jealousy, the tension completely drained from his face, replaced by a sudden, intense, breathtaking warmth. A genuine, radiant smile broke across his face, the most real, beautiful smile I had ever seen him wear. "You talk way too much during high-stakes moments, Leo," he whispered, his voice dropping to a soft, husky purr. And then, he leaned down and kissed me. It wasn't a contract negotiation. It wasn't a display for our parents. It wasn't a fake engagement play. It was deep, possessive, incredibly tender, and completely real. His hands moved from the wall to cup my face, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. 6 months later, the sky was painted in soft shades of pink as cherry blossoms drifted through the air. We were standing in the grand courtyard of a traditional Japanese wedding shrine. My mother was crying tears of pure, unbridled joy into a silk handkerchief, and my father was happily drinking high-end sake with Simon's father, laughing loudly. I looked over at the man standing beside me. Simon looked utterly magnificent, dressed in a traditional, formal black wedding kimono that made his silver hair pop brilliantly. He caught me staring, a soft smile on his lips, and gently took my left hand. He slid a heavy, polished platinum wedding band onto my finger. "So," Simon whispered, leaning down under the guise of adjusting my collar to press a soft kiss against my cheek. "Are you still furious about your family's traditional matchmaking skills, husband?" I squeezed his hand tightly, looking up into those deep eyes that no longer terrified me, but felt like home. "Let's just say," I smiled, leaning into his touch, "I'm giving my mother a 5-star review on Yelp."